Welcome to the OrganizedPreneur podcast, the ultimate podcast for female entrepreneurs looking to supercharge their business. I'm Eldrima Harper, host of the OrganizedPreneur podcast. I'm also a business organizing strategist and coach, where I specialize in helping solopreneurs, freelance professionals, and service-based providers. This is to ignite, build, and transform your business dreams into reality. If you're feeling overwhelmed, struggling to manage clients and tasks, and worried about things slipping through the cracks, you're in the right place. With my signature framework, not only are you able to get your time back and get on track, but also turn your passion and hard work into a sustainable and profitable venture. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, guys. First of all, thank you for your patience. And I do appreciate your time and I do value your time. And so I really, kind of want to get into what we're going to talk about today. But first, I guess I should introduce myself and then allow you guys to introduce yourselves. So my name is Eldrima Harper, the OrganizedPreneur. And so I help female entrepreneurs to build thriving businesses that help them to free up their time, free up their mind for more profit and just really more time freedom. And so I help them to create the infrastructure that they need in terms of building having a solid foundation for the businesses. And so that's all done through organizing, systemizing, and optimizing. And so that's what creates the structure for my clients. And so today I want to welcome Lawrence and Gina to the podcast. And so I'm super excited to have them on. They are actually joining me from probably the other side of the world, but I want to thank you all for joining me today. And I want to welcome Lawrence and Gina to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
I guess we can introduce ourselves.
Yes, please go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about your business, what you do and how you help female entrepreneurs, because you can do it better than I can.
Well, I'm Gina.
And I'm Lawrence.
And we are the founders of Wave Enterprise Co. It is a boutique audiovisual studio for female-owned wellness brands, and we help them with their podcasts and social media management. And we are location independent. So currently we're in Tunisia. It's in North Africa. And this is our 5th year being a location independent business. So we've been traveling around also with our cat. So we've been traveling around the world and, learning and growing and all the things.
Yeah, we feel very passionate about expression and giving voice to those who may need value added to their expression. And we feel that everyone has a story or everyone has value to be expressed. And we feel strongly that that's where we can help bring value, is getting that out, getting that across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that too, because I think that people they devalue their value. And so, I love the fact that you said that, because, we all have a message. We all have, different experiences, and in terms of expressing those things, we bring that about in different ways. And so I love that you guys help us to do that. So you said you've been in business for like 5 years. So what has that been like?
Yeah, well, you can talk about it first.
Well, quick synopsis. Wave Enterprise began as a record label in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm into music. I'm a music producer as well, audio engineer and recording artist. And I was all about music and all these things. She was a 3rd grade teacher. And also we were both in corporate America. And one day she came home and was like, I want to travel. I'm done with this 3rd grade teaching stuff. I'm ready to get out of this rat race, and I was all on board with it. And we moved overseas. We moved to the Philippines, and this is 2019 before COVID. And she's still teaching online. And in Manila, Philippines, if no one knows, the Wi-Fi is pretty bad. So
At least where we were.
at least where we were.
Yeah.
So it didn't really pan out. She had to kind of shelf the online teaching and like,
It was kind of like a quarter life crisis, I like to say, because, you know, I went to school to be a teacher and I accumulated all this debt. And here I am like, well, what am I going to do next? You know? And then he was like, well, we need a website. We need someone to run our social media. Why don't you just try that? And then I tried it and the rest is history. So that's where we are.
Well, I mean, I love that. I totally get when you're at a place like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something that's more fun. Life
Mm.
is really too short, to be doing something that you hate, or,
Mm.
that's constrictive to how you want to move and the things that you want to do, and that's an absolute blessing to be in that space, because there's so many entrepreneurs that's working, 9 to 5, or working in a place where it's like, they don't feel like, well, here's why this is still on my mind, because the as I was telling you guys earlier, that I had recorded another podcast, right? And so that was the topic of the podcast, because some people are in a space where they don't feel validated. They don't feel like they can express themselves, in a way that's true to them. And so I have found that podcasting, does allow that. And so that's one of the reasons why I love podcasting so much. And I'm sure that in terms of what you guys do, particularly as a musician and as, a recording artist, like, you get to just express yourself. And how does that feel in terms of that being so much a part of who you are? And then when you create, music or whatever, how does that feel when someone I'm trying to come from a creative space, because my husband is as a creative person. We're all creatives. And so when we're kind of tied to the thing that we do, how does that feel when you put it out there and you think, "Oh, I hope somebody likes it," you know?
Yeah.
ah, that's that's one of the, I don't want to say hardest, but most emotional, taxing parts of being an artist or a creative of any kind is once you've put these hours into something that you feel so close and connected to, and you put it out into the world, it's not yours anymore at that point, but you go through this journey of, do people like it? Will they, but some part of it is not just with music, is with anything that you're putting out there, podcasts or content on social media. It's like, you need feedback. You need to know if it resonates with a particular audience. And that's the part of the journey that I've embraced, is using it as objective feedback and
That's good.
helping that hone my craft.
Yeah, and I think that the reason that I was asking was because so many of us can identify with putting our stuff out there, right? And, so many entrepreneurs go through the imposter syndrome and, all of that type of thing. I wonder if it's good enough. I wonder if they're going to like it. Well, they didn't click like, or they didn't share it, or they didn't, all of those things that go along with you trying to, I guess, get validation, for your stuff, So, and that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I know that that's something that those that will listen to this podcast will be primarily entrepreneurs. And so I wanted to hear that from an artist perspective, because I would imagine that, well, just like you said, you put it out there and you don't know if they're going to like it, and you just kind of wait. And of course, Gina, as she's doing social media, sometimes you just hear there's crickets. You're posting stuff, and for your clients and things like that, and then there's crickets and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to know what do you hear from your clients that that their experience is when it comes to that as well. So I guess that's kind of where I'm going. And then I know I have some other questions for you, but I just really kind of wanted these are like questions I've always wanted to ask.
Great questions.
Yeah, they are. Well, I was thinking about my personal experience, and then I'll talk about clients. I think that, when we're making something, it's kind of the same thing as what he said, but there's another piece to it, is that you kind of have to not care so much about what people think, because I like to think about what am I learning in this journey, Maybe only like 10 people liked it, but that was the 10 people that needed to see or hear that message today. Or maybe it was I personally challenged myself to make this podcast or this reel or whatever it was, and I did it. I got it done, and I learned from myself through that. So maybe it's not so much as getting outside validation, but just getting it for yourself. And I think along the lines of what clients think, I think it really has to be aligned with what their goals are. So for example, like they're trying to launch an app, and maybe 5 or 10 people like it, but those 5 or 10 people also sign up for the app. I think that's what matters most, is the people that are coming and engaging with your content are really quality people, and as opposed to just a million likes or a million followers and none of those people really even caring what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I so agree with that. I mean, I think because and you probably have heard me say this, Gina, in the networking event. I just have a love-hate relationship with social media. I mean, it's just I just sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. And so I try to do my best because I know that it is an intricate part of, your strategy. That's how people find you and things like that. But I still have that love-hate relationship with social media. I post randomly. But now, as far as podcasting, that's where I'm very, very consistent. And so, yeah. So I guess one of my other questions. So let me get to the next one of the other questions that I have for you. So, how did you get started? And I know you said a little bit about it already. So, how did you get started? And what are some of the advantages of being location independent business?
Ooh. There's one piece sorry, you gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
There's one piece I wanted to say earlier, and it actually ties perfectly to this question. And it was when she had some time to think about what she wanted to do. And it wasn't like she was forced into doing this. It was something that was there, it was an opportunity. And the thing that was beautiful about this story is that she always, since a kid, like loved scrapbooking and making these handmade collages with.
I made him one.
Yeah, she made me like a memory book, and it's really, really neat. And when I would visit her in her 3rd grade class, she would always do these
Like arts and crafts.
super crafty, creative things, have it on the wall, have the kids involved.
Side note, never give 3rd graders glitter.
That was I would like to say a transferable skill, because she just took that and completely applies it to the digital world. And with the graphics and with the content that she makes, you can totally see where her creativity with the arts and crafts translates on our clients' content or on our content. And that was a big way that we started, because that's when Wave Enterprise started evolving into what you see today. And it was through her taking these these things that she loved to do and just transferring it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so important too, because a lot of times people will ignore some of their experiences and the things, and not just ignore, but a lot of times they don't recognize the fact that there are skills that they can bring from their past, employment, from their past experiences into what they're doing now. And I think a lot of people, don't recognize that. I mean, I've talked to many people. It's like, I don't know what I want to do. And I don't know, I don't really have any skills. Well, yes, you do. If you've worked, you have some skills. And even, I was thinking, as I was, recording the other episode, I was thinking about the fact that, and sharing the fact that the skills that I learned in corporate America and in other like temp jobs and things like that, all of those skills play into what I'm doing now. And so that's what I think people just kind of fail to, to recognize. And even if, because this was the other thing that I was thinking about, I hated the job. One of the jobs that I was doing, I hated it, but there were still things that I could bring. I learned, from that experience, and there were still things that I could bring to what I'm doing now. One of them was, project management. Who doesn't manage projects? Entrepreneurs, you're managing a project, being, even if you're a housewife or, whatever, you're managing a project. You may not call it that, but you're managing something that may not be considered like project management in that sense, but you're managing a project. So I'm so glad that you said that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
So
wanted to
go ahead.
kind of say a bit also about how we kind of evolved, and a lot of it was we were started off and we were kind of doing our separate skills as a part of Wave, but not really coming together and figuring out how to really work together. And so we did, I don't know if you've heard of Workaway.
I don't think so. Go ahead, explain that a
Okay.
little bit.
It's a program where you travel and you exchange your skills for a stay somewhere, like across the world or wherever. It could be in your neighborhood. But we went to Bacalar and we went to Puerto Escondido, both in Mexico. And we got a stay for exchange. We did their social media and we had the opportunity to create content on site, which is something that we both kind of grew to love, and we got to do it together. And it was really a cool way to help merge our skills and just see how we can really come together. And then previously, because this was last year, but before that too, everyone was starting a podcast because of the pandemic. And we were like, well, you're an audio engineer and I can do the social media part. So that's how we're going to mush this together. And that's kind of how it came about.
Gotcha. How did you come up with the name? What inspired the name Wave Enterprise?
It was a shower thought. It
Okay.
was a shower thought. I was like, I came out the shower. I was like, babe, Wave Entertainment? And she was like, that's not quite it, but it's close. And she was like, Wave Enterprise. And I was like, Wave Enterprise. And I was really into, self-development and, waves. You can see the sound waves and obviously the waves of the ocean. And there is this philosopher I listen to, Alan Watts, who says, we're all a part of the universe, just like we're all individual waves on the ocean. Like we're all a part of the universe like that. And that's a really profound quote that sticks with me. So it was a couple different meanings that went into the word wave.
And we got married on the beach.
Yeah.
Which made it even more full circle.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's actually bigger than us now and we love it.
Yeah.
And to the second part of your question, the location independent part, and just to add to what she said, we did find it was so connecting to be on site and create with people on site. But there's also advantages of being location independent. And I think that it helps us obviously to spread our message out there, to network with people all over the world. You see different mindsets, different cultures, and that just expands the way we think and the way we operate. And I can say one of the major advantages is because moving around it seems really fun and cool and glamorous, or however you may look at it, but it's
Hard.
it's taxing. It's sometimes exhausting. So if you have a business, you got to have good systems.
Yeah.
You got to have good systems in place to make sure that, you can't say to a client, sorry, we're moving again. We didn't.
The Wi-Fi went out.
The Wi-Fi went out. We can't come through on these deliverables. Like, you still have to show up. You still have to make things happen. So it's helped us really, really sharpen our systems and streamline processes and invest in different softwares and things that just makes us on top of our game no matter what. It makes us have this no matter what kind of attitude. And that's one of the things I can say being location independent has helped us grow with.
Yeah. That is so important. Go ahead. You were going to say something, Gina?
Well, I feel like, I've been networking a lot, which is how I met you. And every time I share, the location independent piece about our business, people are always like, oh my gosh, that's so inspiring. And I feel like personally that is what makes us stand out. That's like a part of our USP. And that's part of the way that we attract clients, people who aspire to have this type of lifestyle or who already do and just resonate with the challenges that we go through. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it used I don't know if it's still called this. A lot of people used to call it like, laptop entrepreneurs, digital nomads, that kind of thing. And so a lot of people are finding that lifestyle to be very, very appealing. And, it really is. And I love your story that you got married on the beach. That is so beautiful. And so, but yeah, I love that. Now, did I know you said that you were going to Lawrence, you were going to her classroom. Is that actually how you guys met and started dating? Because some people might want to know your story in terms of in terms of that.
Very, very quick and to the point, but punchy. I met her in 5th grade. I knew I was going to marry her the moment I saw her in 5th grade. I was in a new town. I was a new kid, and I went up to her, introduced myself, and it was the last week of school. That summer, I thought about her all summer. And then 6th grade, she was in one of my classes, and then I wrote her a note. I was like, would you date me? Blah, blah, blah. I checked the box, yes, no. She said, I'm not into boys yet. Like, my parents won't let me date or whatever. And I tried again in 9th grade. And then I tried again senior year in high school. And that's when I finally caught up to her. And we did long distance through college, but we had a beautiful thing and we made it work. And right after college, we met back up in Atlanta, and about a year or so later, we got married.
We actually eloped.
Yeah.
Didn't tell my parents.
Yeah.
So she has me. I'm still chasing her to this day.
Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Oh, I love that. I love your story. Yeah, that is I was just curious. I was like, okay, I want to ask. I know we're talking about business, but I want to ask, how they met and everything. But that is such a beautiful story. I absolutely love it. So, in terms of, so we're going to switch back a little bit to business and entrepreneurship. So, why do you work with wellness brands?
Great question.
Yeah. So, well, when I was teaching 3rd grade, I would come home and complain because that's what I was surrounded with. And it was just a lot of negativity in the school system in Atlanta. I'm sure a lot of school systems are like that. And he was just like, you're complaining a lot. And I just had to realize that's not who I wanted to be. And I wasn't just happy with what I was even teaching, the curriculum. And so when we decided to move, I didn't realize at the time, but it completely just like stripped everything away that I knew and was used to, all that negativity. And it just gave us a clean slate to start over. And he had mentioned he was into the self-development before. So traveling and moving to the Philippines really propelled me into that self-development journey. And so I got to start over and think about who I wanted to be again. So I started listening to all the audiobooks and reading books and, listening to podcasts and like just being a sponge and really soaking up the culture in the Philippines too, where we were living and just being surrounded by nature and being around free-spirited people, open-minded people. And
People passionate about wellness.
Yeah. And it just really made us excited about being well and living well and knowing that there's another way to do it. And so that's kind of why we work with wellness brands, is because we want to work with people who we align with in our values, who are also helping people be well.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I love that. So, what advice do you have for female entrepreneurs, female owned brands to enhance their business using social media and podcasting? What advice would you have?
Something that we really believe is creating aligned content. And that means creating content you're excited about. And you might have, Mondays, you're going to make all this content, and Monday comes and then you stub your toe and then you spill your coffee and, you're just having a morning. And if you push through, that might show up on your content, and it might get, across the screen to everybody who's going to get that message. And so we're really about creating content that's aligned. Like, it's okay to not make the content that day, just living intentionally with it. And really, sometimes you do have to push through, of course. That's like every entrepreneur has that moment. But it's just about knowing when to push through and when to be like, okay, I'm going to just do this another day. So creating content that really feels good is going to get through the screen to people who need to hear it, and they're going to get the message completely how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I so agree. Lawrence, did you have anything to add to that?
I really agree with what she said, and I'm a strong believer in, just like talking to you, we can feel your energy through the screen, and it's palpable. And like those days where we might be struggling with our living situation or having a rift between ourselves, and we need to create content. It's like sometimes to put a pause on it, because it can be translated through the screen. And I actually had the thought when she was talking, and we were talking about, putting something out there as an artist or as a content creator and waiting for the feedback. And that's a good piece of it, but also not doing it just for validation, having a strong why and being very passionate about what you stand for. And if you're putting out stuff that's aligned, like she said, then it's good to get objective feedback, but it's also good to help you just not, you find your tribe. And I feel like if you stick to what you are passionate about and you just keep referring back to your why, then the content is aligned. People feel that through the screen, and you don't rely solely on validation at that point. It's you have self-validation.
I so agree with that. I love everything that you guys are saying. It so resonates with me. And, Gina and I, have talked before, and I was telling her, how much I love, podcasting. And of course you work with people who they should love podcasting. So what are some of the results that you get your clients through podcasting?
Well, for one, we help them to be consistent so that they are showing up for their clients, and that in return gets them more clients. And the way that we help spread that message more is by posting for them on social media and by sharing, snippets of their episodes. And so part of what we do is increase their brand awareness. So we're helping to make sure that they're seemingly everywhere, but actually they're not doing it and they don't have to be. But I do want to say that the people we work with, when they are showing up, even though we are showing up also for them, when we're working together really as a team, is when they really see the conversions and the results that they want to see. So a lot of times people might expect to just
throw everything at us here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the recording, here's the content. Do something with it. Get me more leads and sales. And it's like, we can help with that, but we can't do it all.
Yeah. And we are not your sales team. We are here to support, to lift it up. We aren't that. And, we really encourage, and we're the cheerleaders to help our clients get on, reels and make the video and do the things.
Yeah, I would like to say too, is that what she mentioned before is the consistency piece. People who have this passion to start a podcast, and also it's like their, not their side hustle, but it's like they're an entrepreneur first and then a podcaster second or third. It might not be consistent if they do it completely on their own, then in a lot of cases. And one client in particular we were working with, we really boost their consistency. And the more that they're consistent, the more they started gaining traction. And some of their posts are like, they just had a post a couple of days ago that like got 20,000 clicks on Instagram, and people are sharing it, starting a conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a good conversation to have. And we feel strongly that we came in as a team to help with their consistency. And we had a celebration moment. We're like, we really helped this. And like, we feel proud to say that had it not been for their consistency, then those results wouldn't have been there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, that word consistency is extremely important particularly in the podcast world, because you hear a lot of people. I'm in different, podcast communities and things like that. And you hear a lot about burnout, and I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what, my next piece of content is going to be. And of course, in addition to consistency in terms of what you help them to be consistent in showing up, that's because they have freedom. They have more freedom now because you're actually helping to relieve some of that stuff off of their plate, right? And so now they have the freedom to think more creatively, and so that frees up a lot of the brain power, where before they might have been thinking about, well, I don't know, how I'm going to do this or what I'm going to do that. Well, we got you. Okay, we're going to take some of this off of you so that you can free up your brain capacity so that you can think more creatively and be consistent. And that's huge in the entrepreneurial space. That is huge because we are, social media everything is so distracting, so many shiny objects, and there's so many things that when it comes to, whether launching a business or being in business, there's a lot that's pulling for your attention. And so I can appreciate the fact that you help them be more consistent in showing up, helping them to free up their time, helping them with being more visible. They don't have to think about that. That's priceless. I mean, that helps to relieve a whole lot of pressure. So I can certainly appreciate, what you guys do and what you bring, to the marketplace in terms of that. So, are there any parting words of wisdom, or is there anything else you want to share, with the listeners that you think, okay, they need to know this?
Mm. Yes.
I think just with everything that's going on in the world right now, I think that it's important more maybe now than ever to just find your community, whether that's in person or online, and just be compassionate for others. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
find your community.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. That's extremely important. I mean,
Mhm.
community, because entrepreneurship can be a very lonely journey.
Mhm.
If you don't have people to support you and, be around people that can identify with what you're going through, you know, because a lot of what you see online, people they're talking about all of their wins and, showing their mansions and all of this kind of stuff. But sometimes those struggles, they may not show
Mm.
that, but entrepreneurship will test you. And so
Mhm.
community is very, very important. Well,
Mhm.
Lawrence and Gina, I really, really appreciate you guys joining me today, and the cat. What's your cat's name, by the way?
Boca.
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 Yeah.
So I want to thank Lawrence and Gina and Boca, you know, for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you guys. And I would love for you guys to come back anytime, because, we as entrepreneurs, we have good conversation and we have a lot we want to talk about, you know? And so
Mhm.
that's what I wanted this to be about, really about having good conversation and just kind of allowing, the audience to listen to our conversation, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, what do you have? This is the last question. What do you have coming up? Anything that's coming up that you want to share with the listeners, or how to reach you, or anything like that you want to share?
Specifically coming up, but we would love to connect with anyone, who's into anything we just talked about. You can find us at Wave Enterprise Co. on Instagram and our personal LinkedIn pages as well,
Yeah.
and TikTok. All
Yes.
all the things.
Well, one thing, our website's getting redone, so we're
Yeah.
gonna end the year and start the year with a fresh new haircut,
Yeah.
and so we'll be able to link that at some point. But Instagram's the best way.
Mhm.
DM us anything, podcast, social media, or location independence.
Mhm.
We'd love to chat.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, that is awesome. Absolutely. And we're going to include all of that in the show notes, and so that they can reach out to you, for that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, it's been really, really good. So thank you, Lawrence and Gina. I appreciate it. So thank you for joining me on the Organizedpreneur podcast. And I look forward to talking to each of you very, very soon. Start by listening and subscribing to the podcast. Simply go to OrganizedPreneurPodcast.com. And also check out the freebies available, including a free training at The Organizedpreneur